and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove, and I'm joined by a man who's a very good and patient friend. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
What?
Well, you came in and you watched Croatia, England with me.
I did. I feel like after last night, you were like, Taylor's not depressed enough about soccer. Let's make him watch 90 minutes of England Croatia behind closed doors. It's going to be great.
I thought it would be a better game.
I thought it would be too.
Yeah.
I definitely thought it would be a better game.
And the reason you're a good and patient friend is you didn't complain until at least the second half.
I made it to the 72nd minute, I believe, before I just started staring at you angrily. And my favorite part of the game was Daryl, I think, really working hard not to make eye contact with me.
I was watching the game.
I know you were.
I was just paying close
But I
attention.
saw you sort of start to move the eyeballs towards me and then recognize what was happening, and they went right back to that screen.
So we are going to briefly talk Croatia, England, because it's kind of interesting, just not in an actual way. Then we'll talk US Women's National Team. The group stage is complete at the CONCACAF Women's Championships. We are going to talk Save the Crew, because we don't actually know the news yet. We've started recording. We know, in a few minutes, there's going to be some sort of announcement about what's going on with Columbus Crew. Rumours were all over Twitter, but nothing was specific. So we're going to recreate for you here on this podcast our feeling all day where we know something's happening, but we don't quite know what it is. And you'll find out in about 20 minutes.
My best guess, every franchise in MLS is moving to Austin all at once. It's going to be dramatic.
Or what if they move all the teams to Columbus?
Ooh,
they just fill Columbus with
the other way around?
20-something Major League Soccer stadiums.
Half in one city, half in the other. Yeah. Feud forever. I love it.
It'd be like the 2022 World Cup where everything's in Doha.
Yeah.
Weather slightly less warm.
Slightly.
Yeah. So, expect a Crew update. Basically, we'll take a break later and figure it out, and then we'll relay it to you.
But you won't know because of the magic of editing.
It'll be smooth.
Yeah.
Let's start in, I believe, the city of Rijeka.
Okay.
Where Croatia hosted England behind closed doors. There was not a single fan in the stadium. We foolishly didn't do our research when we previewed the game. It was all to do with the swastika on the field from way back in, I believe, 2015, right? Like it was Euro 2016 qualifiers where the fans did that. So that's the punishment for that, is that you have to play this game behind closed doors.
Yep. Which is also why, if you're wondering, likely the explanation for why they were playing in such a small stadium.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want the match day expense to basically have to finance a large stadium that wouldn't be filled. But I also think that was part of the problem, because I'm going to guess that field was maybe not the best. Probably not the field that maybe they would usually be playing on.
It was better than the Raymond James Stadium.
That is true, but not by much. And so I do think that was part of the problem, at least in the first half, is that it felt like consistently players were more focused on keeping their footing rather than like moving quickly to meet the ball or like really settling the ball under control, because it felt like maybe there was some issues with the surface that certainly didn't help the play too much.
Okay.
I think that's probably why we saw some pretty aggressive tackles as well. I think it was a lot of losing your feet and kind of sliding into people that you didn't mean to make contact with.
Interesting. Yeah, I saw Henderson and Dyer and co doing that a lot for England. I would say from an England perspective, the interesting thing was the change in formation. Right? So the 3-5-2 that was all through the World Cup and the couple UEFA Nations League games and friendlies after that was out. England went out with a back four, 3 midfield and 3 up front, which, when I realised that, I was kind of excited. Yeah. But then when I saw it on the field, I realised it was actually sort of a defensive formation, right? It was keeping numbers in the middle. It was 3 central midfielders to try and not let Modric, Rakitic, Kovacic play their way through. But it worked in the other direction as well, where England couldn't play their way through either. And it just became a big old grind through the middle.
Yeah, it was familiar, honestly, to last night with the USA versus Colombia, where it felt like it was a system that they had practiced a little bit, but maybe nobody was quite like 100% comfortable with it. And I think that was also part of the issue, at least for England, was that I think we kept spotting times when Eric Dyer would be on the ball, or maybe John Stones, and there would be 30, 40 yards and then an England player. In between that space were several Croatian players. So it felt like there was no real rhythm of passing through the middle. It tended to be long balls or maybe individual efforts due to the poor field conditions that allowed maybe like an individual run down the channel.
I think so, yeah. I think it was England would pass the ball, they would move it around, but they wouldn't really get past midfield because Croatia had so many men well positioned in there. And then in an act of desperation, it would either be the long ball, like you said, for probably Kyle Walker to chase down the right, or Chilwell, the left back, to chase down the left, or it would be Marcus Rashford deciding, you know what, I'm going to dribble at some people.
Yeah.
And he'd always get past one, but then he'd get tackled. right?
The Marcus Rashford story.
That is the Marcus Rashford story, yeah.
Or miss on occasion. He had two in 2 minutes, 55th and 57th minutes.
Yeah.
Rashford in on goal, essentially. The first one he fluffs, mishits,
this
however you want to put it.
I love this type of pass. I think James had one last night, but Kyle Walker had one for England where you bend it from the side, but you manage to bend it around and in front, so it then goes behind the defence. It's incredible.
But it's still far enough away that the goalkeeper can't come for it. So it really should have been in the back of the net, Marcus Rashford. We're not sure if he was trying to let it roll onto his foot so then he could make the goalkeeper make a decision.
Yeah.
But either way, he basically just isn't able to get any power behind the ball and kind of knocks it right into the goalkeeper's hands.
I think he was like, should I go near post? Should I go far post? How about if I just
neither
gently nudge it towards the goalkeeper?
Yeah. And then the second one he's played in, it's a nice little combination with Sterling. But this time he shoots it maybe too early, I believe the commentators were suggesting. Who were the commentators again? Was it John Champion and...
Craig Burley.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
I did enjoy how much they did not enjoy this game. They really didn't make that a secret in the second half.
No, I mean, I feel like they used the empty stadium and the lack of end-to-end action as an excuse to just sit there and complain.
Yep.
I feel much. Maybe we shouldn't be criticising ESPN commentators, but I really feel like they did an unprofessional job. I think it is their job, no matter what's going on, to offer some analysis of the game, to at least commentate on the game. They were having conversations about whether Romelu Lukaku should start for Manchester United or not.
Yep. Yeah.
And whether inverted wingers is a good phrase or not. There were no inverted wingers on the field, by the way.
There were not. But we're in the era of inverted wingers.
Yeah,
so where Jadon Sancho can play as one, I believe, is where that conversation came from.
I feel like they didn't, even though this game wasn't great, there was still stuff to talk about in this game, and they didn't meet the very low bar of just talking about what's happening.
I like that we're saying that, but not talking about the game. Yeah. We're criticizing the commentators for not talking about the game while we're ourselves not talking about the game.
We've gone meta.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. So the one thing I would say about England is they went in that 4-3-3, and I think, aside from the two Rashford chances, the only other good chances were from set pieces, right? So there was a corner kick at the end of the first half that Eric Dyer hit the post with, and there was a cross early in the second half from Henderson from a free kick. Harry Kane hit the bar, and it seemed to me that maybe UEFA Nations League, points on the line, that was more or less the England plan.
I think so.
Maybe we'll get something from a set piece, but let's not risk everything. And that's why I think when they had possession and couldn't work it through midfield, there was never a real commitment to, all right, but let's push everybody forward and take some risks. It was kind of safety first, right? And I think that's kind of that's why it ended up 0-0. England never really tried to win this game.
I would agree with that. I think,
weren't capable of doing it with what they had to begin with.
Yeah, and I think also weren't comfortable changing things to maybe put themselves in a position to get that away goal. It felt like Gareth Southgate sort of looked at it at halftime, maybe even before halftime, and thought, I could try to change the formation around, I could change the personnel a little bit, but there's always that chance that when I do that, we're vulnerable, we concede one, and now we've got to chase, versus right now, the 0-0 draw away from home, given what Croatia did against Spain. Croatia now very much in third place right now.
5 or 6, I can't remember. Yeah.
So Spain clearly on top.
Spain scored 5 or 6 against Croatia.
I'm pretty sure most people knew what you meant. So Spain clearly on top, and so this feels like maybe it was England setting up to get the point, but maybe also getting a little bit of practice for how to play defensively against Spain.
Yeah.
Then you go for the win against Croatia at home.
And I think the defensively thing, it's underlined by the idea that Dyer and Henderson were both in central midfield.
Yeah.
Along with the only creativity was just whenever Ross Barkley got himself a little bit of space, and that wasn't quite enough.
And to that end, I do think that was maybe the plan. If you look at that 4-3-3, because it's Dyer and Henderson, it felt to me like they were always going to be the ones who stayed a bit more home, and Ross Barkley would be the one who maybe was supposed to link up with the front three or the more attack-minded players. Instead, it seemed like Jordan Henderson got forward a lot, and it was Eric Dyer on the ball a lot with nobody really around him.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if it was, because it's a common criticism that Eric Dyer is not creative enough when he's passing through the midfield for England and sometimes for Spurs. But I couldn't tell if that was his fault or just the fault of the game in general, that he had no options.
I'd say it's the fault of the game, in my opinion, because it seemed like most of the time his options going forward were, again, 20 yards ahead. He had to split 1 or 2 or 3 players. I guess you can't split one unless you meg them. Split 2 or 3 defenders to be able to play the ball in. And even then, when you do that, I felt like the forwards themselves were then isolated. The attackers tended to stay wide. We saw Raheem Sterling on the touchline a lot.
Yeah.
So you're not really going to be able to have too many quick combination plays. And I also didn't think that the fullbacks were too intent, specifically Ben Chilwell, was not really focused on getting forward. It seemed like they were staying home a little bit more than we're used to.
It did happen, but it sort of happened as a late surprise rather than I'm doing this with intent and we're going to make this happen.
Yeah. It felt like maybe Southgate told Kyle Walker, okay, you got a little bit more license now, and that corresponds with when those crosses start coming in from the right-hand side.
Only final thing I want to talk about is Jadon Sancho. Got his England debut at 18. He replaced Raheem Sterling with, 15 or 20 minutes to go. I believe that was the only sub of the game.
For England, yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting. What did you make of the little you saw of Jadon Sancho?
I mean, it was what we wanted to see. It wasn't a goal, obviously, no assists or anything like that, but it was still, he came in. We thought maybe he would come in for Marcus Rashford. Instead, he came on for Raheem Sterling.
Yeah.
But it felt like he was willing to come on the field and try stuff. It reminded me a little bit of like Christian Pulisic in the Centenario, where it was sort of like go on and try things. He was going at defenses.
The early stages of Pulisic's international career.
Because he does have the one moment where he goes to people, does a bunch of step overs, gets to the end line, crosses it back. I believe the Croatian goalkeeper just gets fingers to it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that could have been a more problematic cross. So it seemed like he brought a little bit more of a spark, a little bit more enthusiasm to what was otherwise a more so static attack.
There you go then. It finished Croatia 0, England 0. No one was there to see it in the stadium, but we were here to watch it in our office. And thank you again for your patience watching that game with me.
Here's what I would like to know. My pleasure. Yeah. Here's what I would like. Well, not that.
Not really.
My tolerance. Here's what I'd like to know. Do you think the U.S. women used up all of the goals, and thus there were no goals for England and Croatia?
I think that is exactly what happened.
All right.
So, yes, in the final group stage game, the U.S. women beat Trinidad and Tobago 7-0.
Yeah, they did. And it was pretty comprehensive, which is what you would expect from a 7-0 victory. But I mean that more so just from, if you look at the goals in the first two games against Mexico and Panama.
Yep.
You had
There's no question mark on Panama.
Yeah, I don't know why I made the question mark. You had a few set-piece goals. Not a few in each game, but combined you had a few. And in this game, it was just much more people open inside the 6-yard box, people unmarked at the top of the box, people unmarked at the penalty spot.
I'm pretty confident Alex Morgan even mishit that
the first one.
It looks like she beautifully opened her left foot up, I think, and redirected it to the far post. I think that was a mishit.
I mean, she may have been trying to do that, but I don't think she was trying to have it like glance off of her left toe and go into the perfect side netting. I mean, I'm sure she would have liked that to happen, but I'm not sure that's what she was aiming for.
But you're right. A lot of chances inside the box, people were open, and then just strikes from outside the box, right?
Yeah, which makes me think that like Trinidad coming into this one were already eliminated, and I think maybe like I can't speak to much with much confidence about the Trinidad national team because I haven't watched them play that much, but I feel like there's a chance that maybe they just weren't ready for players of the U.S.'s quality to be able to hit the shots they hit from 20, 25 yards out. And it was sort of, maybe the mentality was, if we get everybody behind the ball, if we get bodies in the box, we're going to cause problems. We'll win everything that we can in the air. Maybe we'll be able to shut them out. And instead, you get Alex Morgan's goal in like the 8th or 9th minute, and then from there you get lots of shooting opportunities from the United States, and I think that was pretty much more than Trinidad could handle.
Yep, so lots of goals from close range. Tobin Heath, I believe, wins the prize for closest range.
Yeah.
Right? She was on the line when she side-footed that in, but the shots from distance, Rose Lavelle had an absolute beauty. Crystal Dunn had a strike.
Lindsay
Horan had one from distance as well. So it was a bit of shooting practice for the US from the top of the box.
Yeah, and when you watch them all in quick succession, the net is pulled in such a way that it makes the same noise every time the ball hits it, and so it's just this like funk, 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 like 3 times in a row. It's just like, yep, they're hitting those shots.
So we had some questions about how Jill Ellis was going to handle squad rotation, right? So this game against Trinidad was Wednesday night, right? Wednesday evening. The semi-final, which is the game the US has to win to qualify for the World Cup, but then obviously also for the CONCACAF Championship final, is against Jamaica, who I think will be a tougher challenge than Panama or Mexico or Trinidad. I'm pretty sure. Is that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like 3 or 4 days between the games? Is it okay that Jill Ellis basically fielded first choice lineup against Trinidad on Wednesday with the important game coming on Sunday?
I mean, I assume so, but this was my concern. This was, and I guess more so just the thing that gave me, like, I was curious about, or I didn't really fully understand why she was doing it, why you wouldn't play your starters in the first 2 games, rest them for the third. It seemed like a strange pattern unless she just continues to experiment and change things around because she feels like she can. And then maybe if Jamaica are stiffer opposition than we face, then maybe you go back to things that are a bit more conventional in the second half.
In fact, that'll be really interesting. I'm just making the assumption that it will be strongest, and by strongest 11, I'm thinking it's like Morgan up top with Rapinoe and probably Heath.
Yep.
Which is what we did in the first and third game. I'm just making the assumption that because the Jamaica game is the one where we qualify for the World Cup, that's what we'll get. But it could even be that Jill Ellis is thinking, we'll win that with Kristen Press and Mallory Pugh instead. and we'll save the quote-unquote first team for the championship game against Canada.
Yeah.
That could be the thinking.
It could be the thinking. I'm not
sure I'd like it.
I think that would be a bad idea.
It's a little arrogant, right?
It absolutely is. Yeah, I mean, and it's come back to bite both the men's and women's teams, that level of arrogance in regional tournaments of, oh, yeah, we'll be able to do this. We can rest a player here. We don't need to take this one so seriously or game plan as much. And I guess it maybe hasn't plagued the U.S. women in regional tournaments. I think they've done just fine in CONCACAF. But generally speaking, you don't want to kind of go into that semifinal game looking towards the final because you can always run into problems. I'm not sure that they will. I think that Mallory Pugh and Kristen Press would be plenty. But you still want to have your strongest players in there, if for no other reason than because you want them to continue to get that chemistry and that familiarity with each other in the lead up to the World Cup.
So that game, once again, USA-Jamaica is Sunday evening. Keep an eye. I believe it's going to be Fox Sports 1 or Fox Sports 2. Keep an eye on that. You'll see the US hopefully qualify for the World Cup and progress to the CONCACAF Women's Championship game, probably against Canada.
Yep.
The other teams that made the semi-final, so it's US versus Jamaica, who finished second in Group B, and then it's going to be Canada versus Panama.
Yeah.
Panama beat Mexico. Panama go through to the next round. So what we have here is, as I understand it, either Panama or Jamaica are going to qualify for the World Cup because 3 of the 4 semi-finalists qualify. Third place playoff winner goes to the World Cup.
All due respect to Jamaica, it feels like if it is those 2 in the third place game, it does feel like it's the year of Panama, 2018.
Because their first World Cup and all that.
Yeah, and then I would assume their first World Cup for the women as well. So there you go. I mean, I guess they qualified for the first World Cup, which we played in 2019, but still, it's a good year for Panamanian soccer.
All right. So, keep an eye on the US-Jamaica Wednesday night. All right, Tyler.
But USA-Jamaica Sunday night, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Excuse me.
I wrote it down.
Thank you. Today's show is sponsored by Roughneck Scarves.
Yeah, it is.
That wasn't the edit point. You might think it was, but it wasn't. Today's show is sponsored by Roughneck Scarves. Normally, we put the tweet out and ask for responses, but we also like to focus on the scarves.
We do.
So if you are going to be supporting the US women's national team, roughneckscarves.com is a great place to find all kinds of US women's national team specific, but also official U.S. soccer scarves.
Absolutely. So you can get those. You can get those in a variety of textures, I believe, as well. So maybe if, it's still going to continue to be summer in October, you can get a lighter one, or as it gets colder, you can get a warmer weather one, or colder weather one, rather, to keep you warmer.
There you go. Also, you can, if you're feeling optimistic about the future, you can get an England scarf. I'm not sure right now is exactly the time to buy one. Maybe after they beat Spain away on Monday. That would be the time to buy an England scarf.
That seems more likely than a 0-0 draw against Croatia. Yeah.
Best of all, you can get 20% off any scarf you find at roughneckscarves.com if you use the discount code Total Soccer Show. All one word, discount code is Total Soccer Show. You get 20% off any scarf you see at roughneckscarves.com.
That's right. That's U.S. soccer, that's MLS, that's USL, that's colleges, that's lots
national
of other
teams,
scarves.
all kinds of national teams.
You can get them all. I mean, it's the international break. If you find that you really enjoyed that Hungary-Greece game and you really want to support one of those teams, they've got you covered there as well.
So we took a break.
We did.
And we read the news.
We did.
And it's not definitive.
It's not.
But we think it's good.
We do.
Yeah? Hashtag Save the Crew.
I'm just going to keep repeating you slowly.
Save the Crew is not quite past tense, but the story has moved forward and it's really good news.
Yeah, I would say
that.
We are in the process of saving the crew more so than we have been recently.
Yes.
It doesn't quite fit in the whole hashtag catchphase, but something like that.
So it's still hashtag Save the Crew.
Yes.
Let's make this happen.
Even though I think the Save the Crew movement tweeted saved the crew.
I think that's a little premature because it sounds like there are still negotiations going on behind the scenes that have not been finalized. Right. In any deal, things can break down. But let's maybe share with listeners what we've learned.
Yeah, ask Tesla that one.
Yeah. Basically, we went and did a lot of reading. We read various stories. Andrew Erickson writes for the Columbus Times-Dispatch, I think it's called. Grant Wall had a story for SI. Jeff Carlisle had a story for ESPN. There's been an MLS statement, and there's been a joint statement by, this is the most important one, the Columbus Partnership, which is a Columbus area non-profit made up of CEOs who are dedicated to economic growth. Jimmy Haslam, who is one of the owners of which NFL team?
The Cleveland Browns. And Dr. Pete Edwards, who is a Columbus area doctor, but who's fronting an investment group of local businesses. Yep.
Shall I just read the statement?
Sure.
Shall I just do it that way? They said, this is around 5 p.m. Eastern today, they said, while there are many details to be worked out, our alliance is working diligently and collaboratively with Major League Soccer to keep the crew in its community. which is not Austin. We are very excited about the quiet but deliberate progress that has been made to date, and we'll keep the community updated as this process moves forward.
Not that quiet. From what the articles we read indicated is that they wanted to keep this quiet until the deal was done and finalized. Things started to leak.
There's a leaker.
I think there will be maybe some sort of public statement at some point. That still has not happened at time of recording, but we still want to talk about it because it seems like things are advanced enough in negotiations that it's... I'm going to withhold my complete enthusiasm until something is officially announced, until the ink has dried. If it's still wet, you never know what can happen. But it does seem like things have moved in the best direction since the news broke, a year ago, that Precourt was going to move the team?
At least, maybe more. Yeah, so it seems like it's going to be owned by Haslam, Haslam family, who own the Cleveland Browns. It's going to be then also co-owned by local Columbus businesses fronted by Dr. Pete Edwards. That looks like what's going to happen. But then there's all the weird machinations of how this happens, right? Because Anthony Precourt Sports Ventures, whatever they're called, PSV, they essentially have a contract with MLS that says we can move the team to Austin, right? And the MLS statement that also came out says we are still committed to an Austin team with the weird tree thing playing in Major League Soccer with Precourt Ventures.
I think they still are expecting them to begin operations in 2021.
That's basically what they said, right?
Yep.
They expected the team to be playing by 2021. So it seems like, this is based on a bit of Jeff Carlisle reporting with an unnamed source, that the new investment group is going to buy into Major League Soccer, and then they'll let Precourt relocate to Austin and have his team there, and then this team will magically appear on paperwork in terms in Columbus. But then the actual effect of it will be that the Columbus Crew just keep on going with the same team, same coach, same everything.
I think basically what it comes down to is
unless the coach gets another job.
I think it comes down to the expansion fee. I think basically Precourt is already sort of in a position where he has bought a club, he owns the team.
So he's saying I'm not paying an expansion fee for Austin, right?
And so I think what it's going to basically be is this new ownership group will have to pay, I'm going to assume, an exorbitant expansion fee, and then they will retain the name, the history, the branding of the Columbus Crew, but then Precourt will retain ownership rights to a franchise at some point, which will be the Austin franchise.
Because he doesn't want the history, right? I guess for his Austin team, he doesn't care if he gets to take Crew trophies and history with him. He just wants to be able to have an MLS team in Austin, and he doesn't want to pay the $150 or $200 million dollar expansion fee. Right? Yeah. So I think everybody ends up happy here.
I mean, I think so. There's still going to be some bad blood, for sure. I mean, it's still the case that...
Between who?
I think MLS has burned some bridges. I do think, even with this news, it's not as though they can say it all they want. It's not as though Major League Soccer was working towards keeping the Crew there, unless it comes out that they had actually been secretly doing this the whole time.
I think it does sound like the behind-the-scenes negotiations were MLS executives talking to Jimmy Haslam and Pete Edwards and people like that.
Well, they have to. I mean, if somebody's trying to approach you to buy an ownership stake in your organization, you have to talk to them. But I think, for me, it always comes back to the fact that he had Precourt had that clause in there. It was like, I can't move the team unless I want to move them to Austin. And they're like, yeah, that's fine. Like, to me, that feels like there was a little bit of Major League Soccer leaning on the side of, move them, whatever.
Yeah, okay, I'm 100% with you that they should never have allowed him to have that clause, because then you're saying in the future this team can be ripped out of its community. But I would applaud them for... They haven't actually said we made a mistake, right? It's very American soccer. They haven't said we've made a mistake, but they have essentially tried to patch it up with this weird deal that's going to happen, right? So in the horrible situation they've created, it seems like MLS is part of some sort of fix that's going to happen.
I mean, honestly, I don't agree with you. I really don't, because I don't.
You don't have to.
Okay, that's good. Because I don't think so. Like, I think that certainly they'll have to sign off on it, but I don't think that it's like MLS went out and tried to find new owners to make this happen. It seems like this ownership group wanted to try to keep the Crew in Columbus, and so they entered into negotiations with MLS. So I feel like, MLS might benefit from it, but it's sort of all of the results, I think, are other people working behind the scenes to make something happen, and then MLS being like, that works for us, that we get two franchises, everybody seems pretty happy, sure.
I think the one thing I'd say is it's a credit to everybody, not just the Save the Crew movement, Morgan Hughes and those guys, like everybody who has put the weight and kept the story going about
absolutely.
We don't want this to happen. Mm-hmm. It's credit to the pressure that's then been put on Major League Soccer that they were essentially forced to come up with this weird, I guess jerry-rigged is the word, solution to keep the crew but also fulfill the contractual obligation they have to Anthony Precourt that allows him to move to Austin, right?
Yeah.
We being like the collective soccer community, have forced their hand.
Yeah.
The people, we were at the draft, right? We were at the 2018 draft in January. And do you remember there was the chanting, the Save the Crew chanting?
They were told they'd be removed.
It almost derailed the draft. Like, there was enough of a threat there that MLS were, it's not just that incident, but that's an example, forced to the table.
Yeah, I mean, I think so to some extent, but I think the bigger thing was just that you had so many people publicly against this move that I think in other leagues, in other organizations, you have teams move all the time, and I think it becomes so normal.
I've seen basketball.
That you're not going to have 31 teams from the NFL come out in support of the one team that doesn't want to move or the fans don't want to move. I think it's sort of like, yeah, that's how it goes, and that's why you have that so often.
That's why this was so important,
that's
that we don't become a league that lets that happen. Well, soccer doesn't become a sport that lets that happen.
Yeah, that's true. But what I'm saying is it's just more so like that I think basically what MLS noticed was the writing's on the wall that this is going to be the most hated team if we let this happen. And I think also there wasn't nearly the reaction from Austin that I think they thought they would get because of the
positive, you mean?
Yeah, just because I feel like a lot of people in Austin would be fine with a soccer team, but when you know everything else that's happened, and again that goes to the campaign to raise the awareness, then maybe if you're like, yeah, sure, that'd be fine, when suddenly it's like, yeah, sure, oh, wait, we're stealing somebody else's team? I'm not so sure I'm okay with that.
I don't have a PlayStation.
Yeah.
I'd be fine with owning one.
Yeah.
But if someone gave it to me and said, hey, I took this from that kid, I'd be like,
exactly.
I don't know if I want this PlayStation.
Well said, exactly. And is that Major League Soccer who's taking the game station?
I think so.
Okay. I like your analogy, though. I think it works.
So, to sum up, crew not 100% safe, but it looks like we're going in that direction.
Yeah.
So, keep watching for announcements. We've speculated on what we think the mechanism will be with the giving Precourt his team in Austin, but then letting the new ownership group buy a piece of MLS and then magically giving them Columbus Crew. I'll be interested to know the machinations. Part of my interest in Major League Soccer is it's so weirdly set up and it's so complicated. I like knowing how things work. I like knowing how this will happen.
I would bet money that that's part of the reason why this announcement hasn't quite happened yet. While we've gotten reports and rumors and hints, is because I think there's going to be a lot of like, oh, yeah, sure, Clint Dempsey can sign wherever he wants because there's this rule now. I thought there's going to be like the new ownership rule where owners can move teams if they own them, but not if they don't own them, whatever.
I look forward to the Paul Tenorio article where he breaks down the mechanics of why this happened. And maybe there'll be like a Matt Doyle, Bobby Warshaw video where they use a video projection and like have the contracts up there and they like highlight various parts of what's going on. And Warshaw is like, yeah, and see here, this is the part that no one's noticed. Yeah, we get a good breakdown.
Yeah, I'm not happy about, but it's more so I do enjoy that it's already started, that I've already seen Browns fans tweeting like, oh, we could have kept this player or signed this player, but instead we're signing some soccer team. And it's like, yay, Browns fans are already mad. Or I guess Browns fans have been mad, but I think this
So I don't know this. How does NFL money work? The owners just can't randomly spend
You have a salary cap,
from their own
but
pocket,
I think it's just more so like...
Yeah,
like I think there's just a feeling of maybe their attention was maybe not entirely focused on the football team that is not particularly good and has not been particularly good since they were refounded.
I did see. Did Cleveland Browns famously not have a good place kicker?
I mean, they famously don't have a lot of good things.
So someone said, I guess this is one way to sign like 20 new kickers.
Yeah. No,
it's an obvious but good joke.
No, they had Phil Dawson for a while. Phil Dawson's a good kicker. Yeah. They have, again, famously had not a lot of good players across the board. Thanks again, Art Modell. Thanks for stealing that other team. I mean, that is part of it. I bet that actually factors into it now that I think about that.
I'm ignorant of this history. What's going on?
The Baltimore Ravens exist because Art Modell moved the Cleveland Browns in the middle of the night, similar to what happened with the Baltimore Colts moving to Indianapolis. That was Baltimore Colts moving to Indianapolis, becoming the Indianapolis Colts. But then the Cleveland Browns were moved to Baltimore, became the Baltimore Ravens. But that happened overnight. People were really mad about it. Then they refounded a new franchise as the Cleveland Browns in like 97, I think it was. But I bet that there's a decent chance the Haslams were there for that, remember what it was like to have a franchise kind of stolen away from the fans in the middle of the night or over the course of a year and a half, as it is the case with Columbus, and maybe that factors into this decision a little bit.
Okay, that makes sense. My one question, though, is there oil in Tennessee? And is there jazz in Utah?
And there's no lakes in LA. That is for darn sure.
All right, anything else to add on this? This is exciting, right? Because it's a thing we've been concerned about. I think I kind of went off on one when this news first came out back that the crew might be leaving, that I was kind of going to be done with MLS if they allowed this to happen, at least in terms of trusting MLS as a league that said that they valued their fans, their customers, right? I really believe that if they let this happen, then they would be saying, no, we value people like Precourt more than we value fans in the stands. To me, it's not a perfect fix, but it reverses it a little bit. It doesn't make me so mad at Major League Soccer. It makes me trust that MLS at least can be shamed into doing the right thing eventually. Eventually, we think. But it's been a turbulent year for Major League Soccer. There's lots of fan bases who are not happy with the organization or with MLS as a whole. So I feel like maybe there's also an element of, look, we cannot let this boil over into people. Honestly, people like Daryl Grove, deciding I'm done with it. Do you think my name came up in a meeting? Almost certainly. No, but the type of people that you represent, people who want MLS to succeed, will watch Major League Soccer, maybe aren't diehard, but also will read the headlines and see the negative press and think, you know what, there's other ways I can spend my time than watching a league that doesn't necessarily care about its fan base. Yeah. So I think you're right that probably factors into the decision. To paraphrase Winston Churchill, you can trust MLS to do the right thing, but only after they've exhausted all the other possible options. I wish I hadn't stumbled in the middle of that sentence, but there we go.
I think he originally wrote that about a future U.S. soccer league. I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
he's very prescient. Yeah, very prescient. All right, so keep your eye on the Save the Crew news. Follow Andrew Erickson on Twitter. He's the journalist that breaks a lot of this stuff, or is at least very well connected in Columbus. I think also Winston Churchill famously said of the El Tráfico derby, they will fight on Newport beaches, I think is what he said. Pretty sure.
Yeah.
Man, your pun game it's getting up there.
Thank you. Yeah. I try.
Intermediate.
I'm going to consider that historical reference game. I refuse to acknowledge puns.
Total Soccer Show Scouting Network.
You've moved us on, have you?
I made a lot of new assignments this week. So a lot of people should have got their players this week. If you have signed up for the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network and I have not assigned you a player, please email me. Daryl, DARYL, at TotalSoccerShow.com. Let me know you're looking for a player. We have a whole crop of young Americans that I'm looking to assign. So please, if you want your player, email me. But we have lots of players to talk about who are already assigned and in the scouting network. I see the first one is very exciting.
It is indeed. It is from Colin Marshall, scouting Conrad de la Fuente, the 17-year-old American attacker for Barcelona Juvenil A. It has been a big few weeks for Conrad. He played 90 minutes in both matches in the UEFA Youth League, providing an assist in their match against PSV Eindhoven, not Precourt Sports Ventures Eindhoven. His rise within Barcelona...
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet. His rise within Barcelona has not gone unnoticed, as he was the only American included on the Guardian's Next Generation 2018, 60 of the best young talents in world football.
Which I will definitely not be using to increase possible scouted players.
No, of course not. Finally, according to Twitter user at Barca B Stuff, he is one of two Juvenil A attackers called up to train with Barcelona B in mid-October. I believe I saw either today or yesterday that he was included on that Barcelona B squad.
I saw it. I saw a list of his on the who's on the matchday squad for Barcelona B. Best of all, weirdly for me, is that his name was listed as just Conrad.
Ooh,
yeah,
I like it.
He's on like first name, like Munir basis.
Let's do it. Yeah. I mean, that's what you kind of have to do, I think. Although De La Fuente is a pretty solid name.
It is, but Conrad just makes it seem... I don't know, there's something very Neymar-ish about just going one name.
I'll give you
especially with the Barcelona shirt, right? All right, next up, Russell Varner is scouting Alex Mendez, 18-year-old American midfielder for the LA Galaxy. Oh, there's big news for Alex Mendez. Russell Varner says Keith Costigan, who is a very good play-by-play announcer, tweeted out last week that Mendez has agreed to a deal with Bundesliga side FC Freiburg and that he, quote, turned down a good offer with the Galaxy to go to Germany, unquote. It was unlikely that Mendes were going to see much playing time with the LA Galaxy, as they've been one of the slowest to adapt to the play your kids movement. That's true, right? LA are producing all kinds of talent and playing none of them.
Yep. Pretty much. Alex Dremel scouting Gianluca Busio, 16-year-old American midfielder for Sporting KC. Gianluca Busio has been splitting time between late substitute appearances for Sporting KC and occasional starts for Swope Park Rangers. Busio just barely missed out on MLS's 22 under 22, coming in at number 23. I can't tell if that's a joke or if that's real. Like, is number 23 honorable mention?
No, I think so, because the 22 under 22 is like the final list is an amalgamation of the lists of various people. Like Doyle has one, Warshaw has one, Wiebe has one, and so on and so forth. So I think there'll be people who were listed by some people, players be listed by some people, but didn't quite make the final 22.
There we are. Well, he did make the final squad. He was called up to the 2018 U17 International Youth Tournament in England. He made that squad for the United States.
All right. Trent Bruckel is scouting Timothy Tillman, the 19-year-old German-American midfielder on loan at FC Nuremberg from Bayern Munich. Trent says, Timothy Tillman has not yet seen first-team minutes with FC Nuremberg since joining on loan from Bayern. Instead, he has been playing for Nuremberg's second team. Most reports from Germany say this is due to his inability to adjust to the physicality of the Bundesliga.
And credit to Trent, he basically said, I was waiting to send you all a report until he made his first-team debut, and I got tired of waiting, is essentially how that went down. Ira Jersey scouting Ashley Sanchez, the 19-year-old American attacker, for UCLA. Or the University of California, Los Angeles, if you want to be formal, Daryl.
I do. I always want to be formal.
I know you do. Ashley appears to have regained her form.
I will not call anyone the dude.
If it's or El Duderino, if you're not into brevity, you can call him El Duderino. That's fine. Ashley appears to have regained her form after a mediocre 90 minutes in a 3-2 loss against number 1 Stanford. Ashley posted a goal and 2 assists in 3 straight Pac-12 wins. Ashley's pressing helps her secure a goal against Arizona State as she won the ball 30 yards out, got around her defender, and deftly finished to secure an insurance goal.
Ashley Sanchez. Matt Koss is scouting Lucas Red Card Toussaint, 21-year-old French midfielder for Lyon. That's what Matt calls him. Lucas Red Card Toussaint. Matt says Toussaint has received a red card in 2 consecutive Ligue 1 matches. Both were due to 2 yellow cards, not the best showing.
Yeah, I'm going to assume that was got a red card, served the suspension, came back, and the first game back he got another red card.
Carte rouge?
Yeah, perfect. Well done, Daryl. Taylor Mukaria scouting Ademola Lookman, 20-year-old English winger for Everton. Ademola Lookman got the start and came off after 60 minutes in Everton's penalty shootout loss in the EFL Cup. Unfortunately, he still isn't getting any Premier League minutes, and given that Everton is now out of the Cup, it might be a while until we see Lookman get more minutes. He was, however, called up to the England U21s.
Get back to Germany. John Adams, not that one, scouting Cheyenne Harrison, the 21-year-old English attacker for Tottenham. John says, on September 28th, Spurs U23s were away to Blackburn U23s. Harrison scored 2 goals in the span of half an hour before he was subbed off in the 35th and was described in the match report as, quote, hobbling, unquote, indicating a lower extremity injury. No word yet on the severity.
Not ideal, so let's finish with a more positive one. David Nowaszewski, scouting Sebastian Szymański, 19-year-old Polish midfielder for Legia Warsaw. Szymański was awarded man of the match last Saturday as Legia defeated Śląsk Wrocław. Oh boy. That was tough. 1-0. His pace and form were great as he created multiple opportunities for his side, who have snuck back into first place in the Ekstraklasa. He was also...
I love the name of the Polish top
division. There we go.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Ekstraklasa.
There we go. I still prefer Tippeligaen, but why not? He was also called up to the Poland U21 team for their upcoming matches against Denmark and Georgia.
All right, lots of goings-ons with the young players, with the Utes. If you would like to join the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network, the URL to go to, I'll put it in the show notes, it's totalsoccershow.com/join. The Total Soccer Show Network the Scouting Network is part of the reason why this show is able to be 5 days a week, right? We make money from advertising, but we also have a core of money from listener support. It's what allows us to go full time. If you'd like to support us, it's totalsoccershow.com/join.
Indeed, I say.
Indeed. Thank you for your agreement. Thank you to everybody who sent their scouting reports today. Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time specifically to watch Croatia, England with me, but also then for taking the time to talk to me today.
I don't think I want to do a full right back at you, buddy, but I'll give you like a 3/4 right back at you, buddy.
How about Kyle Walker back at you?
That's fine.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again on Monday, where I assume we'll be looking at the US Women's National Team against Jamaica, previewing USA versus Peru, maybe even Spain versus England, depending on how that goes.